get things started here on 5 at 6:30. Of course, we're starting with the Trump campaign. They're trying to reach out to the black community, but the latest poll numbers show that will be a huge, you say better than me,
huge
uphill battle as we head toward November.
As you can see from the rundown on the side of your screen, this is the top story at 6:30 tonight. Before we go on, of course, we are getting more and more tweets as we move on with the show, but share with us your thoughts on anything election related. Just use the hashtag 5 at 6:30. We'll be showing the tweets throughout the show. But first, let's talk about Donald Trump. New strategy right now to win black voters may not be going as planned because the numbers show they are overwhelmingly rejecting him in polls. And then there's this. In case you missed it in a speech, Trump gave a speech to a majority white crowd on Friday that still has a lot of people talking.
Look how much African American communities have suffered under Democratic control. To those I say the following: what do you have to lose? I say it again, what do you have to lose? Look, what do you have to lose? You're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs, 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose?
That is the question he's asking. Let's bring in right now Michael Eric Dyson, noted author and Georgetown University professor. It is always good to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let me ask you first off, do you think what Donald Trump is doing to reach out, or what he calls his reach out to the black community, is effective? Is it working?
Well, let me begin with a positive note before I weigh in. The positive note is at least a major candidate mentioned the issue of poverty, which is critical. Most of these candidates on the left and right speak about the middle class. They sometimes speak about the working class, but they hardly ever speak about those who are stuck at the bottom. So I applaud Mr. Trump for that. Having said that, no, it's going over like a brick cloud. This person is incapable of acknowledging the fact that it's not simply about boo-hooing, if you will, President Obama. It's not simply about pointing out statistics whose origin is questionable and whose statistical analysis is indeed in question as well. What it is about understanding the issues that motivate African American people, the broad variety of differences in those communities, and not to reduce black people in a reductive sense to a narrow sliver of the population. Black people are diverse, they are rich, they are poor, they are wealthy, they are not, they are middle class, they are working class. They certainly suffer from disproportionate levels of hyper-incarceration. There's nothing that Donald Trump is speaking about to address that. They suffer from criminal justice systems that target them specifically, with police practices that Donald Trump has already gone on record as supporting. So when we look at the broader scope of what he's doing and the larger trajectory, there is very little that appeals to African American people of whatever class, rank, status, gender, or orientation within these communities.
One thing we heard the Trump campaign say several times throughout this campaign is that in 8 years under the Obama administration, the black community is no better off than they were 8 years ago. I mean, that seems to be a rallying point, and that's why we're hearing him say these things at rallies.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's a complicated story as well. On the one hand, there's enormous pride among African American people for the first black president. There's the appreciation that he and his family represent the best and brightest of our particular community, that they represent a family that embodies the values and the virtues of African American people. On the other hand, there have been some criticisms, even from the left, not simply from Donald Trump, about the lack of attention to specific issues that bewitch and somehow target African American people, and that the Obama administration has been slow on the uptake. But none of those people, or very few of them, would toss in with Donald Trump to say that the resolution of that problem, therefore, would to be put in a person who spent so much of his time before he ran for president besmirching the character of the first and sitting president, African American president of the United States of America, with his birther conspiracy theories, and then since has appealed to the worst bigotry in American culture of a major politician in the last 50 years, with the amplification of anti-Mexican, anti-Muslim, religious bigotry, and also if you will, consternation toward African American people, and gross insensitivity at many of his rallies, where some of the black people who participated were, in a protest, were hit in the face or somehow in one sense harassed, and Mr. Trump offered to pay the potential legal fees. So this is not a man who either by policy or by personal inclination has proved to be quite sensitive to the issues of African Americans, and would not be a viable alternative to Barack Obama.
At any point then, I mean, I know you're not a political consultant, so to speak, but if you could talk to Donald Trump or his campaign, is there anything that you would tell them, anything that they could do that could make a difference in reaching out to the black community?
Yeah, stop being Donald Trump. What it would mean is be open and honest about the conditions and plight and predicament of African American people. Look, Reince Priebus, as the head of the Republican Party, did an autopsy. And as part of their autopsy for the Republican Party, it said, create a bigger tent, aggressively pursue minority people. This is how not to do it. What we can see by Donald Trump's campaign is that he's got about, negative 1%, sometimes 1 to 2% of African American voters supporting him. This is not working. The Republican Party was at least more honest to suggest that they were stone-hearted toward African American interests. They were perceived to be disinterested in the particular issues that African American people confront. So if Donald Trump wants to appeal to them, if the Trump campaign wants to appeal to them, it's got to talk about police brutality. It can't simply say that Blue Lives Matter, though we know it's important to support the police, but the black people who are being viciously brutalized by the police must be addressed, and they must not seek cover under Blue Lives Matter. So Donald Trump has evinced no sensitivity toward African American people or to the broader black community as well.
They've got an uphill battle, is what you're saying. Michael Eric Dyson, it's always great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Well, called a photo op and outreach or just a simple haircut, but a Republican GOP candidate, vice presidential candidate Mike Pence, got his haircut at a black barbershop in Norristown, Pennsylvania, outside of Philly. The problem is the barber had no idea who he was and even asked Pence what his name was.
Ouch. Okay, our own Tom Fitzgerald is live at Hillman Barbershop on H Street in Northeast with the pulse of the people on this one. And Fitz, for our viewers who may not know, traditionally black barbershops have been gathering spots where people talk about all sorts of issues.
It's like a town hall.
Absolutely.
A town hall with capes.
What's going on there?
I grew up in barbershops. My grandfather was a barber for going on 60 years. And if you want to get to know the lifeblood of a community and what people there think and what they're talking about and what they agree upon and what they don't agree upon, you come to a barbershop. So that's where we've come today. This is Hillman & Son Barbershop. It's been here for 3 decades on H Street, Northeast, all right? So this is where we came, not only because of that situation with Mike Pence, which everybody just watched, which, I don't know how you put your mind around that. But also, we just had the TV on up there. We were listening to what the professor just had to say about where this campaign is with the Republicans, what they're talking about, and how they're not talking at times or talking to at times colors of community. So I want you to meet some of our friends here. There's Greg over here. Greg's one of the barbers here at Hillman. So now, you were just watching that. What Donald Trump had to say, and also that scene in the barbershop. Now, first off, let me get your reaction on that. Man sits down in your chair, there's all those cameras there. Why didn't they know who Mike Pence was?
Because nobody knows who Mike Pence is. I mean, you can't cut it no different, no better than just actually what it was. I mean, here at Hillman's, we've had public officials, people that are running for office, people that are running for ANC Commission Board, Ward 8 councilman seats that have actually visited the barbershop. Now, when you have a situation like a guy like Mike Pence that's supposed to be a candidate for the Republican Party that nobody knows, we can pick out what's going on, but at the same token, you have to really not look so rehearsed and staged. Like, you can't really say anything or do anything. It looked staged. It didn't look real.
It kind of speaks to how there's this disconnect between, that campaign at times and, color, communities of color. Because if you're going to open at that conversation, like Donald Trump tried to do the other day, guys, and he says, what the hell do you have to lose? Vote for me. Well, if you come in out of left field and you've not talked to people up until now, you're going to get reactions like the one we got. Now, I promised the barbershop folks here, I wasn't going to ask any crazy questions, but the campaign itself has been so crazy that I told them, what did I say to you what my question was before?
Which one?
About what I was going to ask you, about what you thought about the...
of the election, nothing about the election.
And you said what? You said the campaign itself is... kind of like a circus.
Yeah.
It's a circus.
Good adjective.
Do you feel when you watch any of this stuff, though, that it's speaking to you, where your life is, where your family's life is, where the people in this community on 8th Street Northeast lives are?
Yeah, some of it is, you know, by being a resident of the District of Columbia for years, you know, a lot of things that do affect the community where you live at, where you work at. And if you go out and vote, you can change a lot of things.
Hey, Fitz.
That's probably the best piece of advice we got. If you don't go out and vote, you're not going to change a lot of things.
Absolutely.
That's wisdom you just heard there, and not Wisdom Martin either. All right. So, Greg, we're going to thank you for letting us come into Hillman and Son tonight.
Not a problem.
What do you think? A little off the top here?
I think you should
Hey,
shave
man,
it all
whenever
off.
you get ready,
Take
man,
it all
you
off.
come on down to Hillman's, 1106 8th Street, and get you a free one.
Jim Lokay has been sprouting a beard the last couple of days. I want you to get him in this chair, lather him up, straight edge that man, all right?
And we can handle that, man.
All right,
We can take care of it.
thank you very much.
4
Thank
days.
you, guys.
Vince
Thank
and
you.
Hillman's, thank you guys.
Got you an
Appreciate
appointment there, Jimmy. You come on down here.
All right,
They'll
thanks,
take care
buddy.
of you, okay?
Thanks, Fitz.
All right.
Thank you. All right, we're going to switch now from Trump to Hillary Clinton's campaign. Right now, they're in defense mode following reports that the Clinton Foundation donors may have actually been given special access to her while she was Secretary of State.
A lot of talk about this one. Fox 5's Veronica Cleary talking about this email scandal, and this is different from the one we saw the day before and the day before that. And all these scandals, Veronica, it's getting kind of hard to keep up with.
It really is, Jim and Sean. And, you know, people, I think, can get a little lost in these scandals. She has two major scandals going on, one involving the email server, which you might have thought was over when the FBI Director James Comey back in July said that she would not be indicted, but there was new news that came out about that this week. And then there's this scandal involving the Clinton Foundation, where some emails in the past have revealed what some are calling potentially pay to play between donors of the foundation and then getting access to Secretary Clinton when she was in office. And then this new report by the Associated Press, which didn't even involve the emails, but they looked at schedules that they got access to, and they looked at who was scheduled and on that calendar and then compared that to who made donations to the foundation. So it really can be a little bit overwhelming and a little bit confusing. But, you know, we went to the streets to ask people if they find it overwhelming or confusing. And what surprised me is that most people said, no, not really. And sometimes when they're looking at their choices in this race, it doesn't really matter. Take a listen to this. Does it ever feel like just too much to really understand it all as you're thinking about your vote?
No, I stay pretty well informed and read a lot about it. Let's put it this way. I'm an independent, but I am so negative on Donald Trump that Hillary gets my vote regardless if I have some problems on her emails.
Not really. Seems pretty straightforward to me, to be honest. I honestly have not seen any of them. I just started my first year of law school, so I'm like completely blacked out from everything right now.
I understand it. They're trying to overwhelm me and get my mind off of certain facts, and I'm not going to. It's not going to happen.
So it's the media.
Yes, I believe so.
Does it overwhelm you as a voter?
No, particularly not in a year when she's running against Donald Trump.
So after I heard those answers, it compelled me to ask this question on Twitter. Do the controversies surrounding Clinton's private email server and the Clinton Foundation affect your vote? Now, it was a little bit split down the middle. 46% said yes, it does. 54% said no. Now, in that sound that we just played for you, you had two people say they're not voting for Trump no matter what the emails say. I did have someone tweet me that said they're not voting for Clinton no matter what the emails say. So
Right.
there are people that they just don't really care about the details of the scandals. They know who they want.
Absolutely.
I want to go to what that last woman, what she said about she wouldn't have a problem any other year because she's running against Donald Trump. Isn't that sort of the whole perception of this campaign, is that we as voters deserve better? We have one candidate dealing with scandal after scandal, and then you have Donald Trump who says whatever's on his mind for better, for his worse, or better or worse. It's just, it's astounding.
It is kind of crazy. We want to know what you guys think about it. Tweet us right now using that hashtag 5 at 6:30. We got a long road. What do we have, about 70 some odd days left until the election?
It seems like a long time, and it's a year before you know it.
Yes, it will be.
Yeah.
All right, and things are probably going to stay hot, and I don't just mean the weather. But let's check in now with Sue Palka, who's talking about the hot weather today. Sue?
Hi there, Sean and Jim.
Jim. Yeah, I think once you get through tonight, even Jim Loke is going to say, maybe this beard does have to go. We're headed to 92 degrees tomorrow. Here is your Fox 5 AccuWeather 7-day forecast, because today, delightful at 86, but it is going to feel a bit more noticeably humid to you tomorrow, and especially on Friday. Check out Friday at 97 degrees. Humidity will be high enough that we're going to be talking about the old heat index value being up and over 100 degrees on Friday. Now, there could be 1 or 2 isolated storms, not a lot. Most of it's going to be dry. We think the weekend is dry, a little less humid for the weekend. Next chance of more widespread storms Monday through Wednesday, and some of that could be a tropical connection as well. All right, that's your 7-day. Jim and Sean, back over to you.
Thank you, Sue. All right, so she mentioned it. You're not going to lose the beard, are you?
Not anytime soon. Not planning on it, at least.
All right.
We'll see what happens.
All right, that's a good thing. I'm partial.
She likes
I'm
it.
partial to guys with facial hair. I mean, I'm happily married, but I like your beard.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Coming up, the grand opening is set for one of D.C.'s newest and also most controversial hotels.
Yeah, but one D.C. lawmaker wants nothing to do with the Trump International Hotel. We'll have his point of view coming up. 5 at 6:30 after this. Send your tweets. Hashtag 5 at 6:30 after this.
You gotta keep the beard.
You think so?
Yeah.
From that White House on one end of Pennsylvania Avenue to another one that's sprouting up right now, D.C. Shadow Representative Franklin Garcia leading a protest on the opening of the new Trump International Hotel downtown.
Representative Garcia joins us now. It's always good to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So just so our watchers, our listeners, our viewers know this, you are a Democrat. You're the former president and founder of the D.C. Latino Caucus. You also held a key position in Hillary Clinton's campaign. So other than all of those things, why are you opposed to this Trump hotel?
Well, you know, back in June, Donald Trump announced that he was running for president of the U.S. And in his speech, he talked about very negative about Mexican immigrants. And in the weeks and months that followed, not only did he double down on his rhetoric, but he included other groups. And so what we're doing is on Sunday, August 28th, on the anniversary of the March on Washington, we're getting all kinds of leaders, leaders from the faith community, African Americans, Latinos, everyone to come together and really embrace unity and hope instead of a message of hate.
So the goal, you say, is to spread the message that you're against what he said, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Let me ask you, though, so we have this facility under construction, obviously the old post office pavilion, a lot of money going into it. Is the fact that it's there in the first place good or bad for Washington, D.C.?
Well, you know, we're not against the opening of the hotel particularly.
Okay.
We're more talking about stopping the hate and embracing unity and hope.
Because certainly this hotel is going to bring hundreds of jobs to the D.C. region and employ people, so it's a good thing for the economy. Also, I know in addition to your message of stopping the hate, you are also rallying for something else that is very important for folks here in the District of Columbia, and that is making us, what, the 51st state?
Yeah, that's correct. And so I would hope that Donald Trump, instead of taking a message of hate throughout the nation, that he would come in and embrace the plight to make D.C. the 51st state. You know, this is something that is very dear to all Washingtonians, and he talked about it briefly, but we would hope that he actually would come in and embrace this message a lot more than he is embracing the message of hate.
Representative Franklin Garcia, we appreciate you stopping by. We'll hope to see you again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, politicians in Hollywood, they just don't seem to mix these days.
We're going to take a closer look coming up right here on 5 at 6:30. Stick around, we'll be right back.
This is my fight song. Take back my life.
Welcome back. Politics and paparazzi colliding on the campaign trail.
Taylor Thomas from WHUR 96.3 joined us now. Welcome and thanks for joining us on 5 at 6:30.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Nice to have you here.
A lot going on.
Oh, for sure.
You guys heard Fight Song, right?
Yes.
A lot of people, in fact, Hillary Clinton staffers are defending the idea that she's using that song. Her campaign anthem was really widely criticized by a lot of people.
Well, you know, I was at the DNC for WHUR, and when that video played, it erupted. Young, old, black, and white were excited about it. And basically, you know, her campaign millennial media director said that song really depicts who she is and what she's all about and how there are so many important issues this election. And so they support it. And the star-studded video online, there was 2 million people that saw it on YouTube. 31,000 loved it, 32,000 didn't. So it's still out there. Whether
they played the song a lot, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Criticism? Is it what's the criticism about this?
You know, I think it's just people expressing themselves. You know, social media, you're able to say anything you want at any time.
I know that.
And with no recourse immediately, depending if it's a threat or not. But
all right, let's talk about the talk show rounds. Of course, we
Yes.
know Hillary Clinton made the rounds on Jimmy Kimmel. She talked about her health, but apparently they didn't get everything they wanted out of that particular performance.
Absolutely
what happened?
not. Nielsen showed a 0.4 rating for 18 through 34, which is the millennial crowd she is desperately trying to pull over.
And Jimmy Kimmel's the type of show where that's the young males. They love Jimmy Kimmel, and that's the group that's swarming towards, if there's a group swarming towards Donald Trump, it's definitely younger males in that demo, for sure.
Now, what makes things worse, late night with Seth Meyers, he had Henry Winkler on, same rating.
Fonzie on.
The Fonz. Hey.
Hey. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, not exactly sure what that means for the Clinton campaign.
Absolutely.
Ratings weren't so great, huh?
Absolutely.
Right. Well, and that's that's how the politics, how the campaign goes now. Is they're going to make the rounds on every talk show. I'm not quite sure if Donald Trump's going to show up on Stephen Colbert's show because he's been having a lot of fun at his expense. Fallon's sort of that. Hey, let's stand around and play games and have a little fun. Yeah.
We'll see what happens next.
Exactly.
All right, Taylor Thomas, WHR. Thanks so much for coming in. We appreciate it. We'll be
Back
right
after this.
Yay! So we're in Hollywood today.